Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Armies on Parade. And oh boy, am I excited for this one. This is the Faceless of Tzeentch, my Warriors of Chaos army. This came about as a result of the Budget of Sigmar, our community army building project in the PmP Google community. And I really tried to push myself with this army, and I love the way it turned out. So I'm very excited to share it with everybody. I do hope you like it. And yeah, let's get into it. And let's start on something I hate. So these freaking dogs. Oh boy. I hate these dogs. They're terrible. I mean, they're fine how they're painted or whatever, but I hate these dogs. I hate the models. I had some extra money one month. I had some dogs. That's how they happened. There you go. Now I've got dogs. Exciting. Alright, moving on. Ugh, more stupid dogs. So these are the other 5 dogs. I wanted Tzeentchy dogs, so these are all converted. One has the weird eyeball tentacle and horns and extra mouths, and one has like an anus for a face, because why not? That seems Tzeentchy. Again, I hate these guys. They're built off, like the models they're built off of are annoying. They were boring to paint. Yeah, and there we go. Let's move on to fun stuff. Okay. So the Warriors of Chaos themselves, for whom the army is named. So this gets you into the first time you actually see one of the main things about the army, which is that all of the heads, with the exception of one guy, are converted with Stormcast. So if you watched the last Armies on Parade, you know that I used Bretonnian heads for all of my Grailcast. That left me with a huge number of Stormcast heads. And I thought, well, I've always thought those death masks that the Stormcast wear honestly felt more Tzeentchy. And so the underlying narrative for this army, like the story that's in my head, is that they are the Faceless of Tzeentch, this massive army that gathers on the mortal realm of metal and forges these masks for themselves so that none of them are any different from any others. They're just a bunch of basically copies of each other intentionally because they all are the servant of the Changer of Ways, and his sort of mortal instrument, if you will. The first guy there was kind of a test model for the Warriors of Chaos, the guy who still got a Chaos Helm, and I painted him to test it, and I hadn't realized actually at that point that I wanted to do the Stormcast heads. And by the time I got him, I was just like, yeah, whatever, that's fine. He can be the one weirdo. So he's apparently the guy waiting on his new helmet. Yeah, that's fine. You know, I'm sure it'll show up in the mail anytime now. But I like how these guys came out very much. I should have turned a few of them around so you can see the nice purple cloaks, but they all have snow on their cloaks, and I think some good work there. Yeah, I really like these guys. The whole army uses this color scheme. The idea for this blue on this armor came about from one of the units I painted for the Grailcast. If you watch that again, I made mention of it. It was one of my unit of prosecutors. This whole army is done with the Minotaur, the Badger Minotaur Ghost Tint Plasma Fluid, which is just one of the coolest, most amazing paints ever. And so that color is just so fun to use. I was like, man, I really want to do a whole army in this. And so I did. And that's what they are mainly done. The gold is all of this is the Vallejo liquid gold alcohol paint, and then shaded with in the process of my hobby cheating video on shading this kind of gold and doing extreme contrast. So units like this were certainly frustrating. I'll talk about the ice bases more later on. Just know that they were a big giant pain in the Tookus for units like this with 18 individual guys. Moving on. So this is the first 5 Chaos Knights for the group. Most of them, I think, are probably modeled with the swords, but I have a few with halberds. I mean, I collected this army some secondhand and stuff like that to stay within budget, so if they already had, if they already came modeled, sometimes they didn't always have the choice, and I didn't want to rip arms off and stuff. I didn't care that much. I think they look okay with the halberds, so it's fine. All the banners are done in that fashion with sort of the pink clouds, like the Chaos Waste and the lightning and the symbol of Tzeentch. I guess a few of them I experimented with other color clouds like red and turquoise. In the end, I wasn't afraid to experiment with this. I don't really care that much about uniformity. That is to say, this is already a very similar army. So, you know, you mix it up every so often. Don't be afraid to try stuff, and if you fail, who cares? Whatever. But I really liked how these guys came out. I love the Chaos Knight models. I just think they're fantastic. And these guys are on the bigger 75 mil bases. I just felt like Chaos Knights were so bulky and big and important that they needed to be on the bigger cav bases. It means that, I mean, I guess in the game it probably provides me with some minor disadvantage because I can't fit as many of them in and more people can get around them. But I could care less. They're totally worth it because they need to look big and stompy and imposing. And when the thunder rolls, you're going to feel it. That's what I'm saying. All right, so that's the first 5. This is the next 5. Like I said, there are 15 knights total. I tried to mix up their weapons, position them differently. You'll notice none of them use the bone helm. Like one of the Chaos Horsies has like a bone helm. And I really hate it. I just think it looks so stupid. And it would completely clash with the color scheme because then one of them, the helm, isn't metal, which bothers the bejesus out of me. So I just tossed that head. I didn't toss it. It's in a bits box somewhere. But I didn't use any of the bone helms. I like the way the eyeballs and the shield came out, you know, stuff like that. Again, just trying lots of different patterns with the Eye of Tzeentch that they carry into battle, stuff like that. And you can see many different types of Stormcast heads. For the most part, I used the blue head if I had the full face, or the gold mask if, like, some part of their face was cut out. I don't know. I thought it just looked better that way, so that's how I did it. That was really pretty much the end of that thought. All right, moving on. Final 5. Here we go. I have a lot of Lords on Dracoth, and many Lord on Dracoth lightning bolt heads with the sort of cat topper went into this army. So you're going to see that head a couple times. This is the flag that's turquoise. It doesn't work as well since it's such a contrasting color as the magenta, I think. But hey, still fine. As I went along with these guys, you'll notice if you look at the knights, like if you look at the first group, they didn't have nearly as much contrast as these guys. Like if you look at, say, the armor plates on the rightmost guy's horse, you see a lot more contrast. It goes from darker way up to lighter. As I continued on through this army, I realized that it looked a lot better when I pushed the contrast farther. So I started experimenting with that and really, you know, kind of trying to take it to extremes on the armor plates. So that is something that happened. There you go. I think when it comes to this sort of armor where you're not using metal, you really need a very heavy amount of contrast to make it still feel like enameled metallic. So yeah, there we go. All right, next up, Shark Surfers. Yes, I don't know what these are. I'll probably use them as like blood crusher or skull crushers, whatever. They'll be my Tzeentchian skull crushers. I don't really care if they have rules or not. It's not why I did it. I had some extra screamers. Those are metal. So these guys are ridiculously heavy because the guys on top are plastic. So don't pick them up by the plastic guy. You got to pick them up by the screamer. But I just love the idea of this unit of, you know, sort of Warriors of Chaos surfing on these sharks on these manta ray things. It's just so funny to me, and it came up on like a show of Warhammer Weekly, and I was like, well, that's it. I'm converting them. I don't like flying bases with little crystals, or sorry, the little clear plastic, I don't know, whatever, sticks. So all of those are like brass rods drilled up into the metal manta rays and then just covered with snow to kind of hide them so they look like an icicle. This unit was very fun to convert. I used 2 of the older, kind of bulkier Chaos Warriors that honestly have the more Varanguard style shoulders. Like when we come to the Varanguard later, like maybe very quickly, the Varanguard have the gold edge around their shoulder pads, and that's something that eventually kind of went away. I honestly really like that look of like the gold etching where it's the edge is gold and then the interior is meant to be a different plate. It's kind of honestly how the Stormcast are done. So I think that I don't love the old Chaos Warriors, as Tom likes to call them, the Monkey Warriors, because he thinks they look like monkeys. But I liked them in this case. I thought it made them look a little bulkier, a little top heavier to help balance out the sharks. And I'll pull the guy off the chariot any day of the week. I love that dude with his big ridiculous cloak. Speaking of the Varanguard, These are one of my most proud units in the army. I love how this unit came out. I think they really look great. I mean, I'm not trying to be a weird douche or something, but I really enjoyed painting them. They were a super fun unit to put together. They're just the right size to do. I thought that the colors all came out well. The head swaps are fun. The one on the left is the vulture head from Archaon. The one in the middle is the Frost Phoenix head, which is, let's just say, slightly too big for that horse. But whatever, that's fine. Doesn't matter. It's Tzeentch. Things get mutated. Things are weird. It's lots of different size stuff. It's fine. And so that's both of those are shoved on there, and then green stuffed and stuff like that. These were just so much fun to paint. I mean, this unit is obviously a little expensive retail, but I will say that I think they are very worth it. They were just incredibly fun to model and put together and hack up and convert. And I like the way they came out. So there you go. My Chaos Ogres. So I had some extra Ogres. I've still got some extra Ogres on top of this. I just didn't really feel like doing anymore. So these were my 3 Chaos Ogres. I tried to make them look very chaosy. So yeah, I think they came out okay. I wanted to carry the blue color through beyond just the shield, but they're not wearing, near as much armor. So we went for the blue skin. I mean, seems appropriate enough. And I think they came out all right. I'm not over the moon with them, but they're fine. I think the big guy in the middle with his giant oversized horns is the one who came out the best. Not sure about the peg leg. Okay, so my first chariot. This is my Gorebeast chariot, because it has the manta rays on the front, and yes, again, those are the metal ones. So this thing is, again, very awkward to pick up and utilize, but that's fine. I took the picture from this side so you can see his cloak. The other side is a similar banner with the mauve and the lightning and stuff. I just love the idea of these big pink cloud storms rolling across the plane of metal, the icy plane of metal. Something about it just struck me. There's obviously several conversions in here. So the little sidebars are from the Cauldron of Blood, as are the wheels. I wanted to make this chariot look more sleek, and so I wanted to add on more sort of directionality with those forward-facing swoops. And I wanted the wheels to look... the Chaos Chariot wheels look a little big and bulky for me, but I really love the sort of more artistic, I guess. That's probably the wrong word. The more... I don't know, artsy-fartsy, I guess, perhaps, I don't know, wheels of the Cauldron of Blood. So, hey, why not use those? But this is fun. Obviously, both these guys have prosecutor heads, and I think this turned out, pretty well. I'm certainly happy with this chariot, and to me, I enjoy it way better than the Gorebeast, who I've admittedly never liked the look of. Now, he looks like a monkey. That's a monkey. Tom, take note. That's a monkey. Alright, so here's the other chariot, and this is my standard, chaos chariot, I guess you would say. So, just pulled by standard horses, as it were. Again, same thing, same conversions with the wheels from the cauldron and the swoops. Didn't have a banner pull in this one, just thought it would be fun to use, some different pieces and things here and there. As I had already used the cloaks for other things, this guy is cloakless. And I really think it does actually make the model less dynamic. There's something about that cloak that actually makes the whole model have the right amount of forward movement. Looking at this now, I'm like, I don't like this one as much. And it's because he doesn't have, the back guy doesn't have a big cloak swooping off of him, creating the forward movement in the model. It ends too suddenly, as opposed to coming to a long sweeping point. So, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it until this exact moment, but it's certainly the case. I still like this chariot, I think I like the other one better. So this is my only Chaos spawn in the army. I'm not that enamored of Chaos spawns, but I wanted to make sure I have one, just in case I create one, because Tzeentch casters can do that. And so this is my Chaos spawn. This guy is a Rackham mini, and I've had him for a long time. Got him in a trade a while back, and he's just kind of been sitting around waiting for a home. And when this came up, I thought, what better? This guy looks totally like a Chaos spawn of this army. He's got the Faceless thing going on. He's got the metal pieces to him, the metal arm, like the big blade arms. He really resonated with me as a Chaos spawn of this particular force. So he was fun to paint. And it's funny, too, because looking at him in this picture, I'm like, his skin looks barely differentiated, but I spent hours trying to get these, like, incredibly smooth little blends on each muscle, and yet, yep, here we are. So, meh. Oh well, guess I should have taken it farther. So sometimes people ask me about the conversions that I do and whether or not they always work. And the answer is no, because here's one that doesn't. So I wanted to put my Lord on Demonic Mount on something more Tzeentch-y than the regular Demonic Mount. And so I had this extra Griffin body. That's like a Reaper Bones Griffin. And he's at a wonky angle because of how the thing pinned and how it then settled, because bones will kind of like bend over time. Eventually I managed to support him more, like putting a pin through him, but the damage was done. So he's like really leaning into it. Also, as Kieran pointed out, I didn't take the sword highlights up enough. Like the runes are fine, but the sword needs more highlights on it to really pop. So all in all, I'm just not happy with this guy. There may be... I love the model on top. Like, that's the Chaos Lord from the Manticore kit, and we'll see the other half of him sometime. But he may just get ripped off that dumb Griffin sometime, and I might use that Griffin for something else and just figure out something else for him to ride. Maybe that's a future project. So this guy is my Lord on Disc, and he's got, like, some flames from the Burning Chariot and stuff like that. And he was an experiment in doing, like, incredibly heavy OSL of what happens when orange-yellow flame hits their blue armor, it would turn it green, right? I mean, that would just be what happens. And he doesn't really work. Like, he does stand out weird against the rest of the army. He was just, like, I wanted to try a fun little experiment with OSL. There are two reasons why he doesn't work. He's fine in alone. He does look very strange when placed next to the rest of the army. But also he doesn't work because the snow isn't shadowed. Everything else is fairly dark, and there's a lot of heavy shadows on things outside of the OSL. But the problem is the base isn't in shadow. So I've got this super bright snow that isn't reflecting anything, and yet the model above is like cloaked in shadow and OSL light. I could fix that. I'm just too lazy to do it. But sometime I'll go back and fix that. So it was fun to experiment with like the exact angles and where the light hits and stuff like that, and to intensify the sort of yellow. He actually has more bright green or yellowish green to him in reality, but that gets kind of washed out in the photo, just because digital photos are bad at rendering that kind of yellow color differential. But all in all, he was still fun to put together, and I'm perfectly happy with him. But I might do another Lord on Disc at some point in time. It's, I love the idea of the Chaos Lord on Disc, and I think he's pretty wicked awesome in Age of Sigmar. So yeah, we'll probably do another one at some point. That's okay. I don't mind returning to armies and continuing to flesh them out in the years to come. It's fun to add to existing armies. But for now, he was a fun experiment and a fun lesson for myself, and it's good to push yourself even when sometimes you fail, like this guy was. Okay, so this is my Sorcerer on Steed. He was a fun to make that horse's head. That's like a Bretonnian Pegasus head neck, and then one of the Varanguard mount heads. I wanted the Sorcerer to have a really distinctive mount, so he didn't just look like some other Chaos Warrior. What I should have thought of, again, is putting a cloak on him. When I look at him, like at this angle, he looks so strange without some kind of cloak or something like that, out behind him. I do like the banner staff. I'm perfectly happy with how that came out. And you can't really see it at this angle, but his shield has like has a raven flying off of it, one of Archaon's ravens, which I think came out really nicely. So all in all, I like the distinction on him. I like the way the colors turned out. I just feel like the model, my conversion failed because I didn't notice that I needed a cloak. But that would be a fairly easy thing to attach to him, frankly. I'm just out of giant Chaos Chariot cloaks. So I need to go find more giant Chaos Chariot cloaks. I think that'd look good on him. Alright, so now we're getting into the monsters. And I love monsters. I love painting monsters. I love everything about them. I love monsters on the table. I love big monsters, big models. It's my thing. So this was the first Cockatrice I did for the army. One of the first figs I painted for the army. So many months ago when we started this project. And I really like how this guy came out. I think the blue, purple, and sort of pinky skin tone work fairly well. Yeah, he was sort of a test of doing this tone, this color pattern on organic things, because everything, like when I'd done my test models, I'd done it on armored, heavily like metal encased people, and then I came to organic things and I was like, oh crap, I don't have a plan for that. How am I going to tie this organic model who has no armor whatsoever into an army that is defined by the color scheme on its armor? And so I think he came out okay. I was pretty happy with him. And like anytime I have open flesh, I always try to do tattoos or stuff like that, just because you got to keep it interesting. So that's that little chaos symbol on his haunch there. This is one of the last Cockatrices I did. I started with one and ended with one. And this guy is converted with the wings of the Balrog from Lord of the Rings, which I love those wings. Like, I just think they make him look so much better with those big bat wings. And then he has the tail of the barbed tail of the manticore, which is really one of my favorite sort of monster tails. I love the swoopiness to it. I love the tri-prong, like that sort of trident harpoon look. And then obviously he is heavily pinned into a big rock, which is from the Dragons Don't Share Bones kit. Very cool kit, pretty totally worth it. Comes with an awesome piece of terrain that I have slowly been hacking apart as basing material, much to Tom's chagrin. I'm going to cut that whole castle into pieces and stick it on bases. That's what's going to happen over time. I like this guy. I like the sort of dot pattern on his wings. I thought that was fun. That was a little bit of an experiment, and I like how that came out. And I tried to do this guy in more of the sort of two-color scheme as opposed to the last guy, because I wanted to keep it more straightforward. But all in all, yeah, I'm very happy with him. Okay, the first Chimera. So this one was fun. I really liked painting this guy. I wanted to make the heads again in line with the color scheme, but not make them too incredibly different. I love the Chimera's big textured wings. I did a hobby cheating on doing textured wings, making them look sort of extreme. They're very fun to paint. You get to use just a lot of techniques back and forth. For me, it's just a long time of dry brushing and washing and airbrushing and layering and then repeating that several times. And they're just fun to paint because you have so much good texture to work with, and I think they come out really, really cool. I wanted to do like the tiger stripes on this guy, which was probably the most annoying, lengthy part of this, to do those. It took me several tries to get it to look right, because stripes can't be just solid. That's not how stripes look. They have skin tone mixed with them, and they kind of fade on the edge. They're not a solid line, so it was a little bit different than sort of traditional freehand, and it was very fun. More of the Dragons Don't Share castle he's standing on, so take that. And I'll talk about the ice bases here. If you're interested in the ice bases and how I did them, I have a hobby cheating video in the hobby cheating playlist that walks through making the ice bases. I will tell you they are complicated. That is to say, it does take time. Every base takes about a day to put together and cure. Like, it doesn't take that long to make. I mean, it's maybe like it's maybe a total of like a half hour or 45 minutes of work on the base. But, it takes a day to cure the realistic water. And in doing this army, I used one full 16-ounce or whatever bottle of Woodland Scenic's realistic water. So how much did it take to do all this? One bottle. That is how much it took for the army, which I thought was, in the end, a pretty good deal. But I like how this guy came out, and I like his little tiger stripes. This is my other Chimera. And I like this guy. I wanted to do one that was very dark, but still in the purple tone, and to bring the blue in, I wanted to etch these sort of glowy runes into him. I've actually got two pictures of him. So you can see he's got them on his body, and then I'll flip around here, and you can see they're on his wings, too, and down the center of his sort of torso. I really like how those came out. I think they're just, again, that is that plasma fluid in action. I love the way it looks glowing against that dark purple. I'm going to do a video sometime soon on doing these runes, but they are... I just think like there's a lot of things if you can fit them in, especially against a really dark contrasting color like that purple. They can be just really fun and really make the model pop on the table. So I really like how this guy came out. Next up, the Slaughterbrute. I've always loved this big dumb model. I love that he's high-fiving you. He wants to say, what's up? What's up? High five. And so there he is. And I like how this guy came out. Again, this was a minor little OSL experiment with the blue cracks in his back. Again, using the plasma fluid. This one, I think, was much more successful. I tried to go very minimal with it. You can see how it's reflecting up in the gold, like very minimally. I think that came out actually pretty well. So the shadows are kind of reversed, like the deeper shadows instead of being underneath are just in spots that are tucked away because you got both the light from above and below hitting that. My inspiration for him with the spine, well, honestly, was Godzilla. I thought about like old Japanese Godzilla, how his spine would light up, and he would that would make him then breathe his little atomic breath. And so I thought it'd be fun if like this guy had sort of the same look about him, and I thought it created the nice contrast to the purple and the pinky tone. Again, like most of the organics in the army. What didn't work out on this guy is I didn't get enough of like the detail picked out. This model has a lot of little bumps and stuff, and though there is plenty of brushwork over that, over like his armor plates and stuff, a lot of it is also airbrush to lay down the base. And I realized as I was very much into it that there was really no way at that point to pick out the individual details without either spending hours highlighting each tiny little dot and edge and then probably still not having it look great, and needing to redo all the work. So I kind of just said, all right, well, lesson learned. I think he's still fine, but it made me sad. But on the bright side, I did get to learn my lesson and apply to that guy. So the Mutalith Vortex Beast, whom I love. I love how this guy came out. Again, I thought the colors were fun to mix in the turquoise in here. I think here it actually really worked with the black. Again, the spikes and the little tentacles and such. The drippy goo is in that turquoise, as is the portal. I was very happy with the way the portal turned out, going from that dark purple through oranges up into that white. And I think what I really love, the next picture, because I have two of him, is I love the way the skin tone came out on this guy with this sort of deep purple in the recesses up to that sort of very bright pale gray white. So that was fun. The fun experiment with this guy was when obviously there's a dragon stuck in the ice, and what I was aiming at was seeing the shadow of the dragon trapped beneath the ice. And if you look closely, you can see where that shadow is and how it gets like more intense near the tail and near the head. But you can see like the shadow of the whole dragon under the ice. I am really happy with that and how that came out. That was super fun. I love the way the ice cracks underneath his feet. That took a while to line up and like really make sure that it was all correct, but I love the way that he's walking and actually cracking the ice under him. So all in all, this one was I was very happy with this miniature, and it's one of my favorites in the army. And you can see that all the detail on the edge of his armor and his plates are now picked out properly. Those were at an early stage dry brushed and then washed and airbrushed and layered back down and stuff like that. All right, so my Chaos Giant. This is a miniature from Wargamma, which is a little boutique miniature company that only makes a few miniatures, but this is one of them, and I freaking love this miniature. He's converted a little because normally he has like a big weird shoulder pad on that I didn't really like. I gave him these like shoulder spikes instead. And he has a couple different weapons you get in there. One of them is the sword, one of them is the mace. I just love how muscular this dude is. This is what a giant should look like. This bro hit the gym. He has not, on arm day, chest day, leg day, he hasn't skipped any of them. And that's, to me, I love it. Like, when you look at a lot of the Chaos Forces, the non-Nurgle Chaos Forces, they're all ripped because they're just empowered with weird, otherworldly Chaos God energy, right? And so I hate the fact that there's just one giant, and he's meant to be like the Beastman giant and the Organ Goblin giant and the Chaos giant. I don't like him. And or let me say this, I don't like him for Chaos. I like the model quite a bit. I just don't think he's a good Chaos giant. This guy is basically the same height. He's maybe like a quarter inch shorter, so he's probably about as tall with his little spiky things on his shoulder. And yeah, I really think he's a lot of fun. I'm pretty happy with the paint job and how he came out. One big regret with this miniature, the way I turned his sword. Like, his sword is pinned into his hand, which is pinned into his wrist. Like, all of that is pinning. And I didn't realize what angle it was at when I pinned it together. So it looks like he's about to try to, like, grab the head of something and chop it off sideways, like he's going to slice some deli meat. Like, the angle of that blade. Not really sure about that. I think it would look better if the blade was vertical, but it's just a little thing that bothers me every time I look at the mini. But all in all, I think he was pretty successful otherwise. The War Shrine of Tzeentch. So this thing was nonsensical. I wanted to make I hate the War Shrine model. Let's start there. And I wanted to make my own. So I did, out of a lot of different things. The base of this is obviously the Soul Grinder, sort of metallic base, which I thought fit very well for the Faceless of Tzeentch on the plane of metal. The big machine just seemed to make sense. The dais is just like the lid to some plastic thing that I had. I just found it in one of my, like, drawers. And then it's got a lot of Cauldron of Blood components to it. The little sort of railing on the top, the blades, the thing in the middle that's sort of, I don't even know what that is, but that's holding everything with the coals on the side. And then obviously there's the big Chaos Banner and then green stuffed fire on top. And then you can't really see it because it's kind of being covered up by his staff, but there's a big banner hanging off of that again with the lightning and stuff like that on him. There's also, like, the eyes are green stuffed, and then you've got a banner topper in the middle, and then the little leering face hanging down under the eyes that sits on the front of the Chaos Chariot. And I love that little face, and I thought that was fun. I just kind of saw it, and I was like, huh, yeah, all right, let's just cut that off. I bet I can make a face out of that. And that's all resting on, like, a little floating piece of cork that I did actually use the plastic sort of flight stand for here, just because I really wanted it to feel like the dais was floating above the walker, and that they weren't connected. And then the Chaos Warrior on top is just, converted to be the sort of sorcerer guy on top who's steering the shrine around. I like this conversion. I thought it was a lot of fun to put together this big, ridiculous monstrosity. It is quite tall. And, yeah, it was just, it's fun to just be like, all right, I'm going to make something crazy and just start grabbing parts and gluing them together. Just see what you come to. I would highly encourage you to just do that. Over time, everybody builds up bits. Just go nuts. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to make something weird. Who cares? You learn from it, do something fun. At worst, you're like, it doesn't look good. You still tried. At best, you have a completely unique model that is yours and only yours, and that seems worth a little risk. Alright, so this is my Demon Prince of Tzeentch. Again, this is the Balrog, the other part of the Balrog. He has the wings of a Frost Phoenix, along with part of the tail pieces of a Frost Phoenix. And his sword is the halberd piece from the Vermin Lord. This guy was a super fun experiment in monochromatic painting. I really wanted to paint a figure in a completely monochromatic color scheme. One color all the way throughout, right? Just blue. No contrast, nothing else. Just shades of blue. And, down to the darkest dark up to white. And I really love how this guy came out. I thought he was fun to do. He was the first time I did, like, the ice crystals that he's standing on. I think those are okay. I think those came out all right. I ended up using it a couple more times across the army. The fun thing about this was, and I pointed this out in my video on color contrast, I had to put the guy, the elf hand or whatever, the elf stick, down in the ice, because I needed at least a second, and really he still needs one more, but it's a little better, instance of gold on this miniature, because otherwise the hilt of his sword was just the only thing you could look at, because it was the only gold thing on the whole miniature. So I was trying to break up where your eyes go, and I think it worked out okay. If I could have somehow figured out how to get a third piece in, it probably would have been much better. Like something in his left hand would have been a good choice, but didn't do it. So that being said, I was very happy with the results of the sort of the monochromatic painting experience, and I really do love this fig. I've used him several times in games, and he usually dies getting hit by cannonballs in the face or something sad, but that's okay. He still makes me happy. Okay, so this is my Sorcerer Lord, or alternatively, regular Chaos Lord, doesn't really matter, you can use it either, but it's the Sorcerer Lord model on Manticore. I love the Manticore fig, I think he's a lot of fun. The only thing weird about him is I hate the way he's kind of like, it looks like he's like slipping. His leg is turned at this weird angle. It looks like he twisted his ankle a second before this picture was snapped, as it were. But I love his wings. And like I said, his tail, I think he's got a great face. And I really love the rider on top. Like, I think the Sorcerer Lord is just a fantastic miniature. That, like, sort of weird mask with the super long flowing cloak. I have a second picture of him here, which I'll go to. But I like this guy a lot. I like the way he came out. I actually didn't convert his face because it actually fit very well with the theme in that it's the sort of just complete blank face mask. With only the dots, so I left that on there. And there's the back. The runes are all Tzeentchian. They're actually, I used the Thousand Suns Tzeentch runes because they're way more interesting. But yes, they all do say stuff. Every one is like a translated appropriate word into the Tzeentch runes, which is always fun. That's a nice little Easter egg you can leave for yourself. Paint that into your miniature and then come back to it a year from now and see if you can even remember what the heck it says. I think that's really the challenge in it. So, all in all, I really like how this guy came out. I very much like the way his, the Manticore's sort of skin pattern came out. I mean, you can see it on his tail and on sort of his rump. I thought that was sort of my first experiment to try to do that kind of speckling pattern. And I think it turned out okay. I was pretty happy with it. Probably need some more work to really get it going, but all in all, I was actually pretty pleased for the first attempt at it. Oh, that's right. It's Big Papa. So yes, the capstone, and obviously not included in the Budget of Sigmar, Archaon, the big boy himself. This guy was a true labor of love. And as you can see from the picture, he is too big for my photo booth. He is busting out. This guy is more than 18 inches tall, which is how big the photo booth is. He is massive. I had to, sort of put the photo booth up on books to get him in there at all. I love everything about this miniature. It took a while, but I was very proud of how he came together. There's a lot of little touches here. Again, he is on the Dragons Don't Share thing, which is fun. I love the middle dragon's bloody mouth, and then the headless guy down in the snow. Just the most minor of effects. Obviously, I did mention dragon heads. I sawed off all the normal heads because I'm not afraid to hack a expensive model to pieces. Who cares? Those are like the high and black or the high and dark elf dragon heads. Yeah, like the black dragon and the other one, whatever the high elf one is called. The non-armored heads. I didn't want the armored heads. But this is meant to be Galrock further mutated with a third head. And this is Archaon using his Tzeentch aspect. Because, again, to fit with the whole model. Like, one of the things, Archaon has all the keywords. So I felt like it was okay to model him with the idea that he's sort of expressing one of the gods. So here he is leading the Faceless. The other thing I did with him is I completely, and you may notice this if you really know this model, is that the dumb skulls poking out of the flesh thing, I left a few in his stomach because I thought that was okay there. That's where they would be. They're trapped in his stomach. But I green stuffed over every other one of them. On his tail, on his arms, on his legs. Green stuffed, dremeled them down, green stuffed them over, sanded it down to try to get it perfectly smooth. I hate that. I hate that skull in the flesh thing. I think it looks stupid. I wish they would stop doing it. It is terrible. Really, it's awful. And so I got rid of it. And I will continue to get rid of it in the future on any model that they put it on that I actually purchase. Although I will say it is a major incentive of not buying that model. Just because I think it looks dumb. But I love this guy. Again, he has the big, same thing, the Dracoth Lord head. Of course he does. But other than that, I kept Archaon mostly the same. I still have that extra Archaon head, although it's a little hacked up. It didn't come off as cleanly as I was hoping. But this guy was very fun to put together. Let's go to another image. So there he is from behind. Again, I like the way the dragon came out. He's got a little spittle. That's just the old Uhu glue spit trick. Definitely, if you like modeling dripping blood or spittle or dripping goo or gore, pick yourself up some Uhu glue, UHU. It's hard to order. You usually got to get it from overseas, but it's just the perfect glue for doing this kind of thing. So I very much like how this guy came out. And there he is. There's the close-up. You can see the spit in the dragon's mouth. And he has some extra shoulder pads. I had to add the shoulder pads from the Demon Prince to balance out the blue of the armor plate because it just wasn't balancing before. Like, there was this bright shock of blue in the middle of his chest, and even with Archaon on the wings, it just really wasn't the same. But I thought the shoulder pads, just that small little touch, it's a good example of how the tiniest little touch can make a huge difference when it comes to the miniature. And so I think he looks fun with the shoulder pads. But there you go. That is the Faceless of Tzeentch. It's a big one. I'm very proud of it. I love how this army came together. Obviously, it's my most recent army. I just finished it at the start of this month. So sadly, some of the future armies are probably not going to look as good as this one. But that's okay. They're all fun. They're all part of the hobby journey. And in the end, I do love all my armies. I absolutely am thrilled with how this came out. I hope it was enjoyable and fun for you to watch it. I try to be honest with myself with my failings and my successes. Overall, I thought this army was good, and I'm glad with where it ended up. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Oh, what am I saying? I just realized I have total army shots. Haha. Okay. Sorry. Forgot how this was. Okay, I won't see you next time. We're gonna look at these. So here is the army. There they are all together. Left side, right side. Total force. There we go. There they are in their new home. All together. The Faceless of Tzeentch. And now, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.